Alina Harper was 27, born and raised in the small former mining town of Ashby in northern England. Once a dusty, industrious place, Ashby had changed dramatically over the years. Its streets now quieter, its people scattered by time and circumstance. Alina had left long ago, first studying literature in Leeds and later moving to Cambridge, where she met James. Their meeting was nothing short of cinematic, albeit mundane in its setting, a quaint pharmacy tucked between a florist and a cafe on King's Parade. James stood ahead of her in line, picking up vitamins for his aging golden retriever, while Alina was buying plasters. Her new heels had rubbed her feet raw, a painful souvenir of city life. Their eyes met over the counter, and a polite conversation blossomed about dogs, foot care, and the perfect shade of lipstick for autumn. James was different from the men Alina knew back home. No gruff charm or rough edges, but a polished, confident gent with an easy smile and an uncanny ability to listen. He was the kind of man who could make silence feel comfortable, even thrilling. A month after their chance meeting, James surprised her with a proposal that caught her off guard. "I want you in my home every evening," he said, voice calm but certain. "In a robe, stockings in my arms." It was bold, a little theatrical, but Alina found herself strangely drawn to his vision of their life together. James encouraged her to shed the reserved shell she'd worn like armor for years. "You don't have to be modest, Alina. You can be bold. Just be yourself, the most daring version of yourself." It was a challenge and a promise. They married quietly in a charming little country inn outside Cambridge, surrounded by towering oaks and the gentle hum of cicadas. James insisted on a nearly guest-free ceremony, an intimate retreat from the world. Alina wore a delicate beige lace dress with an open back that revealed smooth skin, elbow-length silk gloves, and no bra beneath the fabric. The dress was James's choice, a deliberate rehearsal for the life he imagined for her. After the wedding, the strange, intoxicating chapter of their life began. James started inviting friends over: Mark, Simon, and occasionally Arthur, the men from his work circle. Evenings unfolded in the living room, where Alina poured wine and joined lively conversations about films and music. She was expected to appear in short silk dresses, red lipstick, and heels, outfits James often bought and presented to her wrapped in elegant boxes tied with ribbons. Alina felt awkward at first, but James whispered in moments of doubt, "When you sit among them in that lingerie, you become a muse. To me and to them you shine." His gaze burned with admiration, and slowly, she began to relish the attention, the flirtation without vulgarity, the way James's eyes lit up when he watched her. When James left for a work assignment in Manchester for several months, he reassured her she wouldn't be alone. "My friends will keep you company. Ask them for anything. Don't be afraid, I've given them my blessing." At first, the apartment felt empty. Then Mark brought groceries, Simon fixed the dripping kitchen tap, and Arthur stopped by one evening with chocolates. "James said you like nuts in your chocolate," he smiled. The kindness was comforting but tinged with something unspoken. One weekend, Mark suggested a trip to a countryside spa near the Norfolk coast. "James says it's fine," he added with a wink on a video call. Alina hesitated, 1 woman and 3 men, no husband, but James's approval tipped the scales. Packing, she chose the most daring lingerie she owned. A sheer bodysuit, a transparent peignoir, and lace-top stockings. Her heart fluttered with a mixture of fear and excitement, as if she were stepping into a new realm. They set off early one crisp morning. Mark drove, Simon napped in the passenger seat, and Arthur sat behind with Alina, scrolling through jazz playlists on his phone. The drive was 3 hours of light banter, the soft hum of the engine, and the comforting aroma of thermos coffee. The spa was old-fashioned but cozy, nestled among pine trees near a serene lake. They stayed in a 4-bedroom cottage with a shared living room, a near luxury paid for in advance by James, Arthur explained with a knowing smile. Alina chose the room with a balcony overlooking the lake. She unpacked, unfolding a lightweight, translucent robe and the cream lace lingerie James had given her on their anniversary. "So you remember whose you are," he'd said then, infusing the gift with a promise. That evening they strolled by the lake. Alina wore a light cotton dress over a button-up shirt and platform sandals. The breeze teased the hem, revealing glimpses of her stockings underneath. Mark's gaze lingered too long, as if testing limits. Dinner was a shared effort. Alina grilled fish while Arthur chopped salad and Simon poured homemade wine. The night felt strangely intimate, like an old friends gathering with an unspoken tension humming beneath. You look like you just stepped off a magazine cover, Simon remarked, eyeing her dress. James picked it, she replied, sipping wine. Arthur's fingers brushed hers briefly. A touch light but deliberate sleep eluded her. Through the thin walls, laughter floated from the living room. Curiosity pulled her out of bed. Wrapped in a short robe and slippers, the three men sat huddled under blankets, sipping mulled wine. Can't sleep? Mark asked, sliding over to make room. She sat, knees touching his. For a moment she recoiled, then relaxed. James would have approved. The subtle glances, the careful proximity. They were boundaries danced on but never crossed. Morning came with an invitation to swim in the lake. Don't worry about the swimsuit, Arthur joked. We're not picky. Alina wore a black one-piece with high-cut hips and thin straps. Hair braided tightly, stepping onto the wooden jetty. The cool water embraced her like a second skin. The men flanked her, their presence a protective circle. Arthur whispered, "Don't be afraid. We're here." She felt like a heroine in a film, center stage yet safe within the frame. The water chilled her skin, but also ignited something deeper. Returning from the lake, her skin tingled. Not just from the cold. She sensed the precipice of change, something crafted from the start, now unfolding. The third morning dawned with silence thick as fog. Alina woke to sunlight filtering through sheer curtains, wearing a delicate white nightgown so thin it might as well have been a whisper. She didn't change, wandering barefoot to the kitchen, hair tousled, face still soft from sleep. Arthur was there, dressed casually in a loose tee and joggers, pouring coffee. "Morning, Sleeping Beauty," he said without looking up. "Where's everyone else?" She asked calmly. "Mark went for a run in the woods. Simon's napping in the hammock. Just us now." His gaze slid over her legs, then up her back. She pretended not to notice. He placed a mug in front of her and sat down. "You know, you're remarkable, Alina. Why's that?" "Because you're both a mystery and an open book. That's rare." She smiled, but inside she trembled. It was beautiful, almost too much. She turned away, feeling his eyes trace the curve of her shoulders like fingers. Retreating to the shower, she stood beneath warm water, wondering where the line was that, once crossed, changed everything. Had they crossed it already? Later, they drove to a different part of the lake, where rustic wooden gazebos dotted a wild beach. Alina wore short denim shorts, a loose white shirt tied at the waist, and strappy sandals. Her hair flowed freely, and beneath the shorts she wore sheer, shimmering nude tights. A subtle nod to a more daring side. Mark took notice, buttoning a shirt cuff with a wink. "You won't get sunburned like this, doll," he teased, voice low and warm. Arthur's smile was knowing, as if they were all part of an unspoken plan. Simon spread a blanket on the sand, and they lay close together. Alina nestled between them. Their chatter was light, but hands strayed dangerously close to her waist, fingers brushing strands of hair with practiced subtlety. She caught herself not wanting to move, not wanting to dress up or return to the old life. As the sun dipped, Mark suggested a photo session. "The light's perfect. Got a good camera in the car." "And who's the model?" she asked. "Already knowing you," he said with a smirk, changing into a champagne-colored, sheer gown, bare feet kissing the grass, damp hair trailing down. Alina stepped onto the lakeside jetty. Shots started innocent, by the water on a rock framed by pines. Then Mark's voice softened. "Now let's try something bolder." "Like what?" "Sit at the edge, bite your finger, look into the camera. Maybe lift the dress a little on your thigh." She complied, inch by inch, teasing the lens with a slow-burning allure. No comments, just clicks and heavy breathing. Back in the cottage, undressing felt like shedding more than just clothes. In the shower, she washed away dust and doubt alike. Dinner found her in a thin slip dress, no underwear, hair piled high, lips painted deep burgundy. Arthur poured wine, Simon lit candles. Mark watched, the camera forgotten. Then the phone rang. "James. How are you?" she whispered on the veranda. "Different," he said softly. "Good different. They're taking care of you." "Yes, maybe too well." "Then it's all going to plan. Something will arrive tomorrow." He hung up, leaving a charged silence. The three men exchanged looks, as if the next act was already written. Morning brought a courier with a sealed box in Alina's name, James's unmistakable handwriting on the tag. Inside lay a silk set of ruby red lingerie, black lace-top stockings, garters, elbow-length gloves, and a mask. A delicate black lace veil like a spider's web. A note read, "Tonight is your night. Trust. No questions. Just be." Her heart raced. She held the pieces, feeling as if she were the night wrapped around Alina like a velvet cloak, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. Her heels clicked softly against the wooden boards of the lakeside gazebo's floor, each step echoing into the stillness beyond. The distant hum of the cottage faded behind her, swallowed by the ancient forest that loomed like a silent sentinel. The flickering fairy lights strung overhead cast dancing shadows, but beyond their glow, the darkness was impenetrable. A black sea stretching into the unknown. Alina's breath came in steady, measured puffs misting in the cool air. Her ruby lingerie, delicate and intricate beneath the soft gray cardigan, felt like armor. A secret strength wrapped in lace and silk. The black lace mask hid her eyes but sharpened her senses. She was no longer the timid woman who'd stumbled into this twisted tableau. Tonight she was something else. A woman reborn, both fragile and fierce. A sudden rustle from the thicket to her left made her heart leap. She froze, every nerve alight. The shadows shifted and a figure stepped forward, emerging slowly from the darkness. Tall, lean, his features obscured by the low brim of a cap and a heavy coat that hung from his shoulders like a storm cloud. Alina. The voice was low, almost a whisper, yet carried a weight that settled deep in her chest. You weren't supposed to come alone, she swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the edge of the cardigan. Who are you? The man smiled faintly, a ghost of a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Call me Matthew. Or just M if you prefer. I'm what happens when the game changes and the players don't. Alina's mind raced. This wasn't any of them, the men from the cottage, James, Mark, Simon or Arthur. This was someone else. Someone darker. Why am I here? She asked, voice steady despite the whirlwind inside him. Stepped closer, the shadows swallowing his face once more. Because you're ready. Because you've peeled back the mask and found the truth underneath. You thought you were free. But freedom is a riddle wrapped in shadows. He reached into his coat and produced a small weathered box, black as midnight, with no markings save for a single silver clasp shaped like a spider's web. He extended it toward her. Inside is the key, he said softly. Not to your past. Not to their secrets. To your future. But be warned. Once opened, there's no going back. Alina hesitated, every instinct screaming to flee, but her curiosity overpowered her fear. She took the box, fingers trembling. The clasp was cool beneath her touch, and with a deliberate motion she released it. The lid creaked open. Inside lay a folded letter penned in familiar handwriting, James's unmistakably, and a delicate silver pendant shaped like a key. The letter read Alina, if you're reading this, you've chosen the path beyond the mask. This pendant will guide you, but it will also bind you. Trust no one completely. The truth is deeper than you imagine, and the shadows you see are only the surface. Be brave. Be cunning. Be you. Alina's pulse quickened, a mixture of dread and exhilaration flooding her veins. She looked up to find M watching her, eyes gleaming in the moonlight. Not all stories end where you expect, he murmured. Yours is just beginning. Without another word, he stepped back, melting into the forest as quietly as he had appeared. Leaving Alina alone beneath the canopy of stars, she clutched the pendant, feeling its weight like a promise, or a warning behind her. The faint glow of the cottage flickered in the distance. Ahead, the forest whispered secrets she was now determined to uncover, and somewhere, in the depths of the night, the game was waiting. The pendant hung heavy around Alina's neck, cool against her skin beneath the delicate lace of her nightdress. The silver key caught the moonlight in a way that made it seem alive, shimmering with a secret energy that sent a shiver down her spine. She stood motionless for a moment longer, the forest's breath whispering through the pine needles overhead, the distant hoot of an owl punctuating the silence. The night felt charged, as if the very air was waiting for her next move. Alina took a deep breath and turned back toward the glowing cottage. The windows glimmered like watchful eyes in the darkness, but inside, the rooms were empty, shadows pooling in the corners. The three men, Mark, Simon and Arthur, were nowhere to be seen. Only the soft hum of the old record player remained, the faint scratch of jazz filling the air like a ghostly lullaby. Her footsteps were soft on the worn wooden floor as she entered the living room. The table was still set from last night's mysterious soiree, half-empty wine glasses, a silk scarf draped over a chair, and the slender book Arthur had gifted her, its pages marked with cryptic annotations. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken promises and unfinished stories. Alina's fingers brushed over the book's cover. The handwriting inside was elegant yet urgent. Margins filled with notes and symbols she didn't fully understand but felt compelled to decode. It was as if the men had left her a puzzle, one she was now determined to solve. A sudden creak behind her made her spin around. Standing in the doorway was Simon, his face pale but eyes sharp and unreadable. He wore a simple dark sweater and jeans, the casualness at odds with the intensity in his gaze. "Alina," he said softly, stepping into the room. "We need to talk." She nodded, heart pounding. "About what?" Simon hesitated, then gestured toward the book. "About what you've stumbled into. About James, about us. And the real reason you were brought here." Alina's pulse quickened. "I thought I knew. But now, I'm not so sure." Simon sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "None of this is what it seems. James plays a game with rules only a few understand. We're all pieces on a board. And you're the queen." Alina raised an eyebrow. "The queen?" He smiled faintly, almost ruefully. "The most powerful piece. The one who can change everything." A sudden knock at the door startled them both. Simon moved to answer it, revealing Mark standing just outside. His expression grimmed. "We don't have much time," Mark said. "Arthur's found something. Something that changes the game entirely." Alina felt a thrill of excitement mixed with dread. The mystery was deepening, the stakes climbing higher as they gathered around the book. The room seemed to pulse with anticipation. Outside, the forest held its breath, and somewhere in the shadows, the next move was being made. Alina realized with a jolt that she wasn't just a player anymore. She was the key to a game far bigger and darker than she'd ever imagined, and the night was far from over. The three of them circled the worn book like conspirators in a secret society, the flickering candlelight casting long, jittery shadows across the room. Alina traced her fingers over the annotations. Tiny symbols, cryptic phrases in a mix of languages, underlined words that seemed to pulse with hidden meaning. The air was thick with unspoken tension, the kind that prickled the skin and tightened the chest. Arthur appeared quietly from the hallway, his usually confident demeanor replaced with a tense urgency. His dark eyes locked onto Alina's. "You'll want to see this," he said softly, holding out a tablet screen displaying a grainy video. Alina took it, the cold glass cool against her palm. The footage was shaky, shot from a hidden camera angle somewhere inside the cottage. The grainy black and white images showed her, Alina, dancing in the sheer champagne dress, unaware of the camera's gaze. The video cut swiftly to scenes from the lake, the photo session, moments intimate and raw, unguarded and real. The chill slithered down her spine. "They filmed me," she whispered, voice barely audible. Arthur nodded. "Without your knowing. It's not just voyeurism. It's control." Mark crossed his arms, his usual easygoing expression hardened. "James and the others don't just watch. They keep tabs. This is a chess game, and you're the queen they're trying to corner." Alina swallowed hard, the weight of betrayal settling like a stone in her stomach. "But why? What do they want from me?" Simon's gaze was steady, but his voice was grave. "Power. Influence. They're part of something bigger. A network that thrives on secrets, on submission, on the illusion of choice." The pendant around her neck suddenly felt heavier, like a chain rather than a key. Arthur's fingers danced over the tablet screen, pulling up encrypted messages she hadn't noticed before. Coordinates, dates, cryptic codes. "They're planning something," he said. "Something that starts now." Alina's mind reeled. Her life, her choices, her very self had been a carefully constructed performance. And she was trapped in the center, but beneath the fear, a spark ignited. A fierce, burning need to break free. "I won't be their pawn," she said, voice steady and cold. Mark's eyes glinted with approval. "Good. Because the game is about to change." Suddenly the power cut out, plunging the room into darkness. A moment later, the faint glow of a phone screen illuminated a message. "You've come this far, Alina. Now the real test begins." The screen went black. A cold silence swallowed the cottage outside. The forest seemed to lean in closer, shadows twisting into shapes that watched and waited. Alina's breath hitched as a single, chilling thought took hold. The game wasn't theirs anymore. It belonged to him. And he was making his move. The sudden plunge into darkness was like a jolt to Alina's senses. The faint glow of the phone screen revealed the ominous message. "You've come this far, Alina. Now the real test begins." Asterisk her heart hammered in her chest, each beat echoing louder in the silent room. The others remained frozen, eyes flicking nervously toward the windows where the night pressed in thick and heavy. Power outage, Mark muttered, fishing his phone out of his pocket and switching on the flashlight app. The narrow beam cut through the blackness, illuminating their tense faces. Probably planned. Simon's jaw clenched. M's signature move. He always likes to remind us who's really in control. Alina swallowed hard, feeling the pendant press against her collarbone like a cold promise. Then we need to find him. Before this test becomes a trap. Arthur nodded, already moving toward the door. He won't be far. This forest isn't as empty as it seems. They slipped outside, the chill night air wrapping around them as the beam from Mark's phone wobbled across the undergrowth. The woods were alive with whispering leaves and distant, unidentifiable sounds. Somewhere ahead, the faint crunch of footsteps stirred the silence. Wait, Alina said, halting the group. Her gaze caught a shimmer near the lake's edge. A figure standing motionless beneath the moonlight, face obscured by shadows. It's him. Simon breathed. Stepped forward from the darkness, his silhouette outlined by the silver glow of the water. You're braver than I expected, Alina, he said, voice smooth and low. Why are you doing this? She demanded, trying to keep her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. Smiled. A slow, cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. Because the world needs to see what happens when the masks come off. You've been dancing on the edge of control and now it's time to leap. Alina tightened her grip on the pendant. I'm not a piece in your game. But you are, he said, stepping closer. The queen, remember? The one with the power to change everything. But only if she plays by the rules. Suddenly, the silence shattered with the snap of a twig behind them. Arthur spun around, shining the light toward the sound, but the woods were empty, until a whisper of movement caught his eye. Look out! He shouted. A figure lunged from the shadows, knocking Mark to the ground. Chaos erupted, their breaths ragged, the forest alive with struggle and desperation. Alina stumbled back, heart pounding as M's voice cut through the turmoil. This is your test, Alina. Choose wisely. In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of something glinting near the water's edge. A small metallic box, half buried in the dirt. Without thinking, she darted toward it, fingers closing around the cold object. It was a key, ornate, heavy, and unmistakably connected to the pendant she wore. As she held it up, the moonlight caught the intricate spiderweb pattern carved into its surface, sending a cascade of silver light across the rippling lake. The struggle behind her faded into muffled sounds, replaced by a profound silence that settled over the clearing like a shroud. Alina turned, the key in her hand, eyes blazing with determination. The real game had begun.